The Mayor and City Council welcome you to the Peoria City Council meeting. As a courtesy to others, please silence all phones. If you would like to address an issue that is on the agenda, or if you would like to speak to the Council regarding a non-agenda item, please complete a speaker request form which can be found in the front lobby of the Peoria City Council chambers or in the tray to the left of the speaker's podium. Please place the completed speaker request form in the second tray to the left of the speaker's podium, labeled Request to Speak. All speakers will have 3 minutes to complete their comments. A countdown clock is easily visible on the left side of the wall behind the City Council dais. Only items listed on the agenda may be addressed by the Council. Since items presented as part of the speaker request have not been listed on the agenda, and due to the requirements of the open meeting laws, the Council will be unable to respond to items presented as part of the speaker's request. However, please be aware that your comments will be noted. The speaker's name will be called to speak at the appropriate time in the order that the forms were received. Thank you for your interest and participation in the Peoria City Council meeting.
Peoria City Council meeting will now come to order. Please rise for a moment of quiet reflection and the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilmember Patena.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The clerk will please call the roll.
Mayor Carlett,
Here.
Vice Mayor Binsbacher,
Here.
Councilmember Patena,
Here.
Councilmember Edwards,
Here.
Councilmember Finn,
Here.
Councilmember Hunt,
Here.
Councilmember Leone,
Here.
Council Liaison Bowden.
Here. Good evening and welcome to the Peoria City Council meeting of April 19th, 2016. The first item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Tonight's consent agenda includes liquor licenses or other types of items that require a public hearing. If there's any member of the public present who wants to address a public hearing on the consent agenda, please complete a speaker request form and place it in the bin next to the speaker's podium. This item will be removed from the consent agenda and heard during the normal course of the regular agenda. Is there a member of the public that would like to address a public hearing on the consent agenda? Seeing none, Council, do I have a motion on the consent agenda?
Second.
Thank you. Council, please vote. The consent agenda passes unanimously. We will now move on to new business. The next item on the agenda is 15R, report of the Charter Review Committee and proposed amendments to the city charter. Mr. Swenson.
Thank you, Mayor Carlett and council members. This item, of course, was heard by the council at your last meeting twice, actually. First, a detailed presentation in your study session, and then secondly, later on the regular agenda, a public hearing was held on the recommendations from the Citizens Committee. So what you have before you tonight are those items that were requested by the council to be brought back at this session, and those would be the resolutions to actually put these items on the upcoming election in August. So what we'll have tonight is a presentation by the staff and the committee chair and vice chair, much as they did at the last meeting, and then the council may vote to move the items to the ballot. Now, so with that, I'll turn it over to Tammy Shreve, who is the staff person on it, and the chair of the committee is Terry Ellis, and I believe Terry will begin the presentation this evening. Terry?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We have been here, and I've reported to you twice previously, so you're probably tired of seeing me, so I will try to make this brief this evening. A couple of highlights. First, I want to say a word about the committee representation. As you know, it was a 9-member ad hoc committee. 3 were appointed at large from throughout the city, and 6 were appointed by the council, 1 from each district. So you had very broad democratic geographical representation in the city. Really good committee. They're listed on the overhead. Diverse backgrounds, smart, collegial, so it was a good group and worked very well together. The committee's charge, as you know, was to try to make recommendations to update and modernize the charter. Hasn't been done in 24 years systematically, and things can get dated in a charter over that period of time. Specific things that the charter looked at: one, best practices, and that's kind of a buzz term. What it means is, what do really good cities, high-performance cities do in a certain area, in a certain task in 2016? And are there any opportunities for Peoria to change something in the charter to reflect that? So we looked for things like that. Number two, there were some methods and practices in the charter that are just no longer done by cities or by this city. There was one, an accounting practice that was set forth. There's a section in there that talks about, instead of council minutes, that will keep a journal. Well, we don't do that anymore, and I don't know any cities that do that. So we recommended taking those out. We also recommended dropping anything that was no longer consistent with Arizona state law, because of course the state continues to evolve in its legal practices. So we had a couple things in there that were no longer legal in Arizona. The one that comes to mind is local resident preference in bidding for contracts. Now, that's not legal in Arizona at this time, so we recommended deleting those. There are a few cases where we recommended just changing the language to make it easy to understand, and language does sometimes get a little bit, the term is archaic and outdated, so we did recommend a few changes in that regard. Methodology, we systematically went through the charter line by line, chapter by chapter. The charter chapters are called articles, but we went through it line by line. And we voted on every single proposed change. If someone was interested in making a major change, required a vote. If it was one word changed in the text, required a vote. Once we were done with that, we went through it again. And we went back and looked at the proposed recommendations to the council, and we said, is this really what we want to do? And we did a gut check on this and said, is there anyone wants to propose reconsideration, much like the council can do? And so we went through that process. At the same time, we classified our recommendations to you in two ways. One were what we called prominent changes, a major change, and the other one was administrative changes, which was everything else. This turned out to be a little more difficult than we thought, because we got into some areas that were gray, and we said, is this a major change? Is it a minor change? There was no requirement to do that. This was something that we initiated just to make it easier for you to sort through this yourself. So we did our best on that. You'll be the judge. When we were finished with that, then we had a vote on the overall package, which was the cumulative decisions of this period of time. All together, a motion was made, seconded, and a vote to recommend the entire package to you, and that vote was unanimous. I just want to highlight one very important recommendation, and that was, actually it's the first resolution that you'll be looking at tonight, and that was to create a permanent standing citizen charter review committee. And the reason is, right now there is no delineated process for doing this. It's very amorphous. So there is a committee recommended, and it looks very much like this one in terms of how you organize it, the number of committee members, the method of appointment, and so forth. And we think that that will make reviewing charter proposals predictable, deliberate, and credible. At that point, I'd like to turn over to Tammy to highlight the major recommendations.
Before Tammy begins, I introduced Tammy and Terry Ellis, but I neglected to introduce the Vice Chair, Joe LaRue, and of course, Mr. LaRue was a City Council member in Peoria years back.
Mayor and council members, there are three resolutions before you tonight for consideration. Resolution 2016-40A is a proposed new charter article, and Resolutions 2016-40B and C outline the proposed recommended changes to current charter articles. Many of these recommendations, as Mr. Ellison mentioned, are administrative in nature. What I'd like to do tonight is highlight the prominent issues that the committee felt were important. The first one is Resolution 2016-40A, a new charter article that establishes a permanent city charter review committee. And as Mr. Ellis mentioned, it basically mirrors the current ad hoc committee. There'd be 9 members. 3 members would represent the at-large and be appointed by the mayor. 1 member would represent each of the 6 council districts. The committee would review any proposed city charter amendments and then provide a recommendation to the council. And they would be able to offer written comments in the voter informational pamphlet. The next 6 prominent items are in Resolution 2016-40B. Currently, a written contract with the city manager is optional. The committee is recommending that it should be required. A written agreement is legally advantageous for both parties, for the city manager and for the council, and also aligns with our practices. Our city manager does have a contract. The next item is the department director appointments. The committee recommends that the city manager, as the chief administrative officer, should have the sole authority to hire and appoint department directors. The committee found that these practices are more consistent with the traditional council-manager form of government, although the committee felt that there was a distinction with public safety functions given their broad community roles. So as a result, the fire chief and police chief were recommended to be subject to council confirmation as opposed to approval. This section in the city charter identifies the types of organizations that the city can contract with. So for example, states, political subdivisions, school districts, and it mentions Indian tribal councils. To be consistent with current terminology, the committee is recommending that Indian tribal councils be changed to Indian nations. The committee is also recommending that we broaden the types of organizations that we can contract with to include insular possessions of the United States or any political subdivision of a foreign nation. This would allow the city to enter into a contract with a foreign nation if the opportunity were to arise. So for example, an intergovernmental agreement with the jurisdictions of the territories of Guam or Puerto Rico. Vacancy of the office of mayor. If the mayor were to vacate the office, the vice mayor would become the mayor. This was concerning to the committee because the voters were not given an opportunity to choose the mayor, especially if it was for an extended period of time. The committee is recommending that we follow the charter procedures for when a council member vacates an office. So based on those procedures, if the mayor were to leave within the first 2 years of office, an election would be held to fulfill that position. But if the mayor were to leave within the 3rd and 4th year of office, the vice mayor would become the mayor and serve the balance of the unexpired term. There's a section in the city charter on council meetings. This section of the charter requires 3 different elements. The council must meet at least once a month. The first meeting of the year, the council must adopt a proposed schedule, and notices and agendas must be posted as required by state statute. The committee recognized that the council has limited flexibility under this current charter. So for example, if the council chose to want to, say, take 5 weeks off in the summer, they wouldn't be able to do that. The most is 4 weeks. You have to meet every month. The language regarding the frequency of the council meetings is not needed in a city charter, but could be more appropriate in the city code. This allows for flexibility when needed by a council. This section of the charter deals with council roles. We want to keep in mind that within the city charter provisions is the institution of the council manager form of government. Currently, in the city charter, it affords the city council widespread ability to change the organizational structure, to assign additional functions or combine duties of different positions, and gives city council authorities over duties and compensation of all employees in the city. The committee recommends that this section be removed from the city charter. These functions are the appropriate responsibility of the city manager as the chief administrative officer, and is also consistent with best practices of a council-manager form of government. The remaining items are in your Resolution 2016-40C. This prominent one has to deal with, as Mr. Ellis already mentioned, monetary preference to local bidders. At the time, I'm sure this was legal when it was put in our city charter. The committee, though, is recommending it be removed, as it is now currently illegal to provide a monetary preference to local bidders. In the ethics section of the city charter, it discusses personal interest of council members, officers, or employees, or whose relatives have substantial interest in, for example, a contract. The committee would like to broaden the definition of the term relative. Relative is defined in this section, and they would like to broaden it so it reflects social changes such as a partner in a civil union or a stepchild legally residing with a public officer. Notices and advertisings must currently be published in a newspaper. The committee is recommending to allow technological advances in media, along with newspapers, to be used to publish notices and advertising. The use of electronic methods allow for more accessibility and transparency to the public. Resolutions 2016-40A, B, and C reflect all the proposed charter amendments being recommended by the City Charter Review Committee, and it has the support of staff. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Council, questions? Councilmember Leone?
Can you explain that a little bit more? I got a question on it, and I don't know if it relates to this or not. If you want to hear the question, I can just say what the question is. Now, is this for hiring or for benefits?
I'm sorry, what section again, Mr. Councilman Leone?
881.1, Section 4D. Ethics.
Okay. And what is the question?
I'm not too sure I really understand this. The only thing I think of is that, what is this? I mean, my question is this for benefits or for hiring?
No, I'm sorry, let me, Mayor, Councilman Leone, this section deals with ethics, and it deals with ethics as it relates to a council member, an employee, and also our relatives. If in a situation we were to be involved in, say, a purchase of some kind of property or in some kind of contract, if a relative was involved in that or could benefit from that, is appropriate. And so currently, our charter defines relative narrowly. And the committee felt strongly that we needed to broaden that definition to reflect society changes, like for like the civil, a partner in a civil union or stepchildren. That was the point of broadening from an ethical standpoint, what is a relative?
So this has nothing to do with hiring?
Correct. This has to do with with ethics
Okay, that's what I want to know. Thank you.
and conflict of interest. Thank you.
It's a what?
Conflict of interest in regards to ethics.
Vice Mayor Binsbacher? Your name is, did you not want to speak? Okay. Councilmember Hunt, did you want to speak? All right. Council, do we have any further questions? All right, so we are going to vote on these 3 times. We are going to vote first on Resolution 2016-40A, and then B, and then C. So, Council, I will need a motion on Resolution 2016-40A.
Second.
Okay, Council, please vote. (40A) passes unanimously. Now we will vote on Resolution 2016-40B. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Okay, Council, please vote. And that is unanimous also. And now, Resolution 2016-40C. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Council, please vote.
That's 2 votes.
And it passes unanimously. All of the resolutions have passed, and our thanks deeply to our Charter Committee. Mr. Ellis, thank you for chairing our Charter Committee. Appreciate it. All right. We are now going to move on to the last item on our council agenda, so please don't leave because it is a presentation and recognition of the City Charter Review Committee. So I am going to come down to the podium over here, and I'm going to ask the council members to all come with me, please, so that we can thank our Charter Committee in person. Come on. We're all going down. Bear with us here while we get ourselves together and come down to the front. So I am going to ask our Charter Committee members to come down individually as I call you, and I'm going to present you with an award, a well-deserved award. Before I do that, I would like to say on behalf of the entire city of Peoria and our Peoria City Council, how meaningful it was that you served us in such a pure sense. When you really took our city charter and you went through it word by word. It is the document that governs your city. And so it is fair and correct and right that you guys as citizens, take a look at it and say, yes, this is how we want our city to be run, this is how we want it to be governed, and these are the rules that we want in place. And so you did that, and you took it so seriously, and you really made a big difference in the transparency that is the city of Peoria. So we thank you from the bottom of our hearts, and we will use your document as you have given it back to us for at least the next 10 years. And then we're going to ask you to come back and look at it again. So I hope you loved it. So I would like to start with the chair of our committee, Terry Ellis. Would you please come? And now our Vice Chair, Joe LaRue. John Durbin. Brian Greathouse. Gross. Mike Heath. And last but not least, Ben Snow. I'm sorry, it looks like he's not here this evening. And there are two other members of our committee who weren't able to come tonight, Brad Schaefer and Susan Churches. Our thoughts are with you, and we will get your award to you. And thank you all so very, very much for your service. We appreciate it. All right, so where are we here? Right. So the next item on the agenda is call to the public for non-agenda items. If you wish to address the city council, please complete a speaker request form and place it in the bin next to the speaker's podium. I do have one request to speak, and that is for James Deibler. Would you please come to the podium and state your address for the record, sir?
Hello, I am James Deibler. I live on 3730 West Tucky Lane, Phoenix, Arizona. And I am going to school at Arizona State University downtown Phoenix campus and Glendale Community College. We need to eliminate Pell Grant eligibility limit for people with disability and low-income students who are trying to get a college education at Arizona State University and other colleges across the country. When students reach the 600% Pell Grant lifetime eligibility limit, they are forced to take out federal student loans or discontinue their education. Extending the Pell Grant lifetime eligibility limit for people with disabilities and other additional students will help students like me reach their education goal. Arizona State University also had a limit on grant funding. If students have over 120 credits, they are no longer eligible for university grants. This is yet another challenge in funding education. When the 600% Pell Grant lifetime eligibility limit, I will force to take out federal student loans in order to continue my education at Arizona State University. Since I am almost at 120 credits with my transfer grades, I am doubtful I will qualify for every university grant. We need to expand other than restrict the university grants are better for low-income students and people with disabilities as an alternative for Pell Grants. One action will be to increase the credit limit from 120 to 180 credit limits, or to eliminate the credit requirements of the debtor. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Diebler, excuse me. We will now move on to reports from the city manager. Mr.
Thank you,
Swenson.
Mayor Carlett. A few brief reports this evening. The first, and I'll ask our chief to come down. Lisa, you want to go first? Lisa wants to go first. Come on down, Lisa. That's okay. Lisa Estrada is our sustainability manager, and Lisa is going to give us a brief presentation on this coming Saturday's event here on the campus that she's been putting a lot of creative energy into, as she always does. Lisa?
Thank you, Carl. Mayor and Council, good evening. I'm super excited. You should probably put the timer up for me to contain myself within that 3-minute time span. But I'm here to really talk to you briefly about this weekend's Planet Palooza Earth Festival. As you probably know, Friday is Earth Day. And we all know that every day is Earth Day at the city of Peoria, so we celebrate it year-round. But this Saturday, we're going to put special emphasis to create awareness and educational opportunities to share with our residents all the wonderful things that they can do to be more sustainable and more eco-friendly in their daily lives. So we have, of course, music from 3 bands with the Hamptons, Geordie, and Sugar Beats. And each of them will have this earthy feel to it, but also be able to play music that is familiar to all of us. So we encourage to relax and kick your shoes off and bring your blankets and lawn chairs and hang out at Centennial Plaza with that. We're going to have an Kids Eco Zone, which will have lots of activities. We're not only going to have our Environmental Resources Department with 5 kids activities, all teaching about decomposition timeline for items, recycling, and water conservation, which is the most important, of course. And then we also are excited to have Arizona State University here with us to teach about sustainability science. So they'll have some very intriguing educational hands-on activities to interact with the children. And of course, we will have, as you've heard, Desert Defenders. We have Water Woman, also known as Maya Bluefin, the Generator, who is Vaughn Voltastica, and Recyclone, who will be Augustus Navarez. And they will be on hand to talk about kids, again, how to empower them to be more sustainable in their daily lives. So we're really, really excited. And I would like to mention that that's a real special partnership with TheaterWorks. These individuals are actual college-level actors who do theater here at TheaterWorks. So it's especially touching to have them here to feel the energy and Dan's presence with us on Saturday. So I'm really excited to see this project move forward. Also want to talk about Mother Earth. She'll be present and roaming around the event, and she will also have a time to do story time with children at the amphitheater. And Eric Wilson, our garden guru, will do 3 different talks to kind of talk a little bit about how they can garden and be more eco-friendly in their homes. So we have that going on. There's a lot going on. We have 2 eco-fashion shows going on. Peoria High School students will be here. They've gone to Goodwill, taken some clothing that's been donated, and basically cut it up and repurposed it and made new fashions out of that. So we look forward to that. And of course, just for fun, let's take some recyclable things like juice boxes, Capri Suns, water bottles, and make some recyclable fashions like that. We probably don't want to wear those, but well, you never know. You never know. Anyway, so that's pretty much it. Again, it wouldn't be a festival without music. And again, here's a promotional poster, one of several that our graphics designer, Mike Iverson, helped us out with. So they've been working overtime for me. So I'm extremely grateful for them and for the opportunity to have a wonderful festival. And hopefully a lot of us can make it that day.
Thank you, Lisa. And she had us all working overtime. At lunch today was quite a scene in the Lake Pleasant conference room as she had us all sewing patterns for some of the kids' costumes. So thank you, Lisa. The next presentation I have is from our fire department. And as the council's well aware, we're accredited in all 4 areas where accreditation exists for municipal service delivery. And the accreditation process is rigorous, and each of the departments that is accredited has to go through a reaccreditation every few years to maintain that status as a credentialed and accredited department. And our fire department recently went through that, and I'm very pleased to announce that they have been reaccredited. And Chief Reese is going to talk a little bit about that. Bobby?
Thank you, Mr. Swenson. Mayor and council members, good evening, and thank you for having us here. Proud to report that a couple of years ago, we started this process, a lot of work, and here at my flanks to my right is Deputy Chief Stacy Irvine, and to my left is our accreditation manager, Jennifer Felton. And these are the two folks that were at the tip of the spear doing all the work. I just show up and do the talking. And so in February, we had our site visit, and we had the accreditation team come out and look at all of our data, and they got in here and got in the weeds. I was pretty impressed with the group. And so came out okay, and they forwarded and had us go in March to the Accreditation Commission and present and defend our accreditation, and happy to say that we got it. And so a lot of the hard work paid off, and again, I want to credit these two individuals for our work, and here's credit, Mayor, that we got our accreditation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bobby. And it's a lot of work to get and to keep that accreditation. They go through, and it's a peer review process where chiefs and deputy chiefs from around the country come to Peoria and look at all of our facilities, meet our staff, and go through all of our standard operating procedures and make sure that they are top flight in terms of best practices for, in this case, fire and emergency medical. And congratulations to everyone who's involved in this.
Thank you.
Don't go away yet. Councilmember Patena?
Thank you, Mayor. Congratulations to you, Chief. I know that we have several departments in our city that are accredited, and that really is a big deal. Getting an accreditation is no easy task, and I know it takes a lot of work, and ultimately, it improves service to your own organization, but it improves services to our citizens as well. So, nice job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Hunt?
Well, I just wanted to add my congratulations. I know just doing the job of seeking and winning the accreditation is huge, but it's what it represents that's really amazing for our city, and that is that you must have scored really highly in all of the areas. You must have already been doing best practices, or all the folks that came to see you and to do the accreditation would not have given it to you. So that makes me very proud to be a citizen of Peoria and to be represented by you. And every time I pick up the paper and see that you guys were at an emergency situation, I just know that those people are in really good hands. So again, congratulations for what you do every day and for what your department does every day, and for this moment of being able to kind of brag about it and show it off.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. Anybody else? Congratulations.
Thanks.
We're really proud. Thank you.
The next presentation I have will be given by Chris Hawkes, our Community Development Director, and Karen Imig from the department. And it is an annual presentation on the status of one of our most important neighborhood programs. Our Neighborhood Pride program has a long tradition of doing outstanding community development work and neighborhood development work in the city. And this past year is no exception. It was another great year, and I'll turn it over to Chris and Karen for a brief presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Swenson. Good evening, Mayor and Council. We're pleased to provide a closeout summary of this year's Neighborhood Pride activities. I don't know if you know, but this is our 20th anniversary of Neighborhood Pride. So it's been around for a long time. It's been a very successful program, and I think it's fitting that this year was probably one of our most successful Neighborhood Pride years, and in a minute, Karen's going to give you some of the details of that. But I want to say the success of Neighborhood Pride is not only a testament to your support, but also the support of past councils, but also to the leadership of Karen Imig and her staff. They do a wonderful job. They really do, and I think you see the results out in the field. So with that, Karen?
Thank you and good evening. It's nice to be here, Mayor and Council. And Chris stole my thunder. 20 years. We've been in operation 20 years. And this really began in 1996 to provide a program to slow or reverse the signs of aging in established neighborhoods. It was designed to be an effort involving the city, the residents, volunteers, and local businesses working together, the main focus being on coordinating volunteer labor. We only provide basic assistance and improvements to facades, such as paint, xeriscaping, granite replenishment, granite replacement, and minor exterior repairs to homes or fences and gates. And to make this happen, the city provides us with $50,000 in the general fund for a budget. And this year was an absolute banner year for our program. And we were able to arrange another $85,000 through volunteer labor, donated supplies, and deeply discounted supplies. And this was all providing 170% return on the city's investment to this program. How do we decide where to go? Well, many factors go into deciding where we will go for Neighborhood Pride. Some of them here are listed, such as the concentration of foreclosed homes in the area, the volume of code enforcement cases in the area, how old are the houses, how many two-story homes are there. We don't work on two-story homes for the safety of our volunteers. We don't work in HOAs because we expect HOAs to manage their properties and make sure that their residents are doing their upkeep. We also allow for nominations from neighbors in the area. You can nominate where you live. You can nominate a neighborhood next door to you. And in fact, in 2016, both the areas that we worked in were from nominations. So we take the nominations and we marry it with the data that we have, make sure it's a good fit for the program. And a couple of examples of some of the data that we look at are actually mapped by our IT department to give us kind of a visual sense of where to start. So in fiscal year 16, we're finished with our programs, and we were in the Acacia District in the Braywood neighborhood, just off of Peoria Avenue and 87th Avenue, and in the Palo Verde District in Cobblestone Village, which is essentially northwest of the Safeway at 83rd and Cactus. And so we have some project photos from those dates, and I just want to point out the staff that really make this happen. In the red in the upper left is Colleen Iliff, who really runs this program for us, right next to Councilmember Finn on his project day. And of course, the director, Chris Jaquez. And not pictured here is Jamie Gonzalez, who's the neighborhood programs coordinator, who also works very hard on this program. And then on the right, and the other district representative was Councilmember Hunt in the Acacia District. And I wanted especially the picture on the left for Councilmember Finn, who had much to say about this after the project and during the project, for this outstanding volunteer who brought her family, which many, many volunteers do, but was shoveling tons of rock with her child strapped in a backpack on her back. So you cannot say we don't have very, very dedicated volunteers. And it was very touching and moving to see that, and it really inspires other volunteers as well. And we also have Councilmember Edwards, who shoveled quite a bit of rock as well. And in this project, we have so many volunteers. Every single one of them is critical. This program runs with essentially one staff member. So to have all of these volunteers are really the force multiplier to our program, without any doubt. And on the right, we had a new volunteer group. That is Lowe's Home Improvement, who provided us with an amazing amount of donations this year and really brought it to another level. So we have a few favorite before and afters. We worked on 43 homes this year, so we're not going to dull every last one of them, but these are some of our favorites in both districts. And as you can see, the repairs that we do are maybe minor on the outside, make a big, big difference, though. So in closing, the statistics for the year, we had, as I said, 43 homes that we worked on, 870 individual volunteers. Approximately 250 of those were youth volunteers under the age of 18, which is important for us to get them involved now while they're young. We painted 30 homes and replenished gravel to the tune of 327 tons and removed over 40 tons of debris in both of these areas. So some minor fencing and gate repairs and landscaping, but I think the big story too was just the amount of match that we were able to provide this year and the sheer volume of volunteers, and every single one of them is just critical to us. So we thank you for your support, and we look forward to another successful year.
Karen, you and your staff do a great job every year with this program, and even having some happy volunteer kids out there and having young people out is fantastic.
You've been out there too, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
It is incredible, absolutely incredible what you are able to get done. I mean, it just says so much about who our community is. Thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you.
Councilmember Patena?
Thank you, Mayor. I don't know whether I'm proud or sad, but I participated in the very first Neighborhood Pride program. And back then, it was a little different. We had the mayor, Mayor Forgy was the mayor at the time, and all the city council participated in that as well. We have since changed that. That doesn't happen so much anymore. But you know what? It's such a great program. It makes such a difference in people's lives, and otherwise they wouldn't be able to afford it. It changes neighborhoods. Code issues go down dramatically, and it's just an amazing program. This year, Karen helped me get a level 1 project up in the Ironwood district where we just simply put out a couple dumpsters and filled them, and the people were really very grateful that they had a place to dump their trash and debris. I was watching on Channel 11, Councilmember Finn made some lengthy conversation about I believe it was your first Neighborhood Pride project, and listening to what he had to say brought back a lot of memories for me, in that to watch the volunteers and do what they do is quite extraordinary. And thank you very much for your comments. Having said that, a number of months ago, Susan DeLuden told me that 25 years is about the cycle when neighborhoods start going into transition. And I've talked to Karen a number of times about, the Ironwood district is a good district. We're all built out, so I don't have any development issues. Homes are relatively new yet, but we're approaching the 25-year cycle. And some of the homes just south of Union Hills are kind of going into transition. And so I'm going to be opting for perhaps having a couple of Neighborhood Pride projects up in the Ironwood district. I know we need them in the south part of Peoria, but as we continue to grow older in the Ironwood district, I'd like to see something happening up there. So I appreciate your efforts, another great job, and congratulations on 20 years of a nationally recognized program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Hunt?
Well, you guys know how I feel about this program. This is just a lifesaver for my district, and we've been around a lot longer, Bill, than 25 years. And so I think 50 or 70, it might be that kind of cycle now. Bill knows it because he's trudged all my neighborhoods too on these Pride programs. But the overwhelming appreciation of the neighbors, I think that's just what keeps me coming back to these. They prepare food, they bring it out for the volunteers, they hug you, they bring all their children to see, what's happening. It's just overwhelming. They're so appreciative, and from what I've noted, these are mostly families that just simply cannot afford to do this for themselves. It isn't that they don't want to or that they wouldn't do it, they just simply cannot afford to do it. So it's an amazing program, and of course I've said I think Karen's staff, they're all geniuses. I don't know how she got them, but the magic they work with numbers and so on. And also I appreciate you supplying dumpsters for one of my neighborhoods that we pulled 22 tons of trash out. The neighbors filled those dumpsters over and over and over again. So you just do a wonderful job, and just keep it up. Thanks.
Thank you.
Councilmember Leone?
Yes. I remember when this started 20 years ago, nobody here in the council was involved unless Bill Patena might have been. And I remember when it started, and it was a great program. I know you're coming to my district and throw a little paint on the wall, but that's okay, it's still sitting there. But you don't come in there much. The one question I have, I got a letter from my home association, I got to paint my house. Well, I'm only kidding. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. The last presentation, and Councilmember Patena a moment ago mentioned the national reputation that Neighborhood Pride has. Well, we also received some national recognition from the American Planning Association recently. The APA was having their national conference in Phoenix, and one of the tour sites for the planners from all over the country to come and see an innovative and positive and successful effort was a tour to our P83 area. And Chris led the tour, and I'll ask him to talk a little bit about it.
Thank you, Mr. Swenson, members of the Mayor and Council. The American Planning Association happens to be the largest professional association that represents the field of urban planning. While it's an American association, it has an international reach. We've got members from across the globe, quite frankly. And the local chapter happened to be the host of this year's National Planning Conference. They had never previously come to the Phoenix area, so this was the first time. We were very, very proud, very happy to have them. We had, the conference was held at the Convention Center. We had 4,300 attendees, so I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I have 4,300 planners walking around downtown Phoenix and throughout the valley. But as part of the conference, we had exhibitors, and we had over 60 mobile workshops, some of those to Scottsdale, different areas. We led one ourselves to the P83 area, and we partnered with the City of Surprise. And the title of the workshop was Integrating Stadiums into Community Focal Points. And we thought we had two good case studies. We have the case study that we have in Peoria, which we have a stadium that's within a district. The district, as you all know, is in the middle of a transformation. We had a visioning process, a branding, and there's been quite a bit of public investment. And so that's juxtaposed by the City of Surprise. Their stadium is in an area that's envisioned to be their future downtown someday. So there's been some development that's occurred, but a very different case study from ours. We had very good attendance. I think people were very impressed. The tour, Chris Calcaterra was there on hand to help orientate the visitors to the stadium complex and the colonnade. They were very impressed with that facility. It showed very well. And then Scott White and I gave a presentation on the different attributes of P83. So I've got some photos here. Let's see if the animation works. So this is all the attendees looking at the stadium complex. And actually, many of them had never been to Phoenix or been out to a spring training venue, and they were very impressed and very excited about it. And I think a lot of them were, had different ideas in their head about what Phoenix would look like to them, and they came away very impressed. Here is Chris kind of giving an orientation on the history of the stadium and the operations, and then myself and Scott White going through the different aspects of the P83 tour. Now, at the end of the conference, there was quite a bit of effort on the social media, a lot of Twitter activity, a lot of blogging that occurred, and so the APA on their website they gathered all of the trends and the trending conversations that occur, and what did they notice, and what did they appreciate about the Phoenix area. And so I put the top 9 up there. People were impressed by the light rail system and its reach across the valley, the murals in the public art district, GRID, which if you've been downtown Phoenix is their bike share program that they have, form-based codes, the transportation plan, placemaking, adaptive reuse, which is reuse of older buildings and repurposing of them, parks, and then in a Healthy Corner initiative. So as I mentioned, anecdotally, I talked to planners throughout the country. I think they were very impressed. They might have had a different impression of the Phoenix area. I don't know if it was an impression of tumbleweeds or whatnot, but I think they were very impressed. And I think when you're downtown, I mean, it's changed quite a bit. I think you all notice there's cranes all over the place, and you've got a lot of housing that's starting to build and develop all around the corners. And I think the entry of the ASU downtown campus and the expansion of that's helped quite a bit. And downtown's really coming alive, and I think the Phoenix area really showed well throughout this conference. And we were very proud to have a mobile workshop tour, and very happy about it. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. Only a group of planners would get excited about a form-based codes.
Yeah, I
but,
know.
you good for you.
Right.
We're glad somebody does. Thank you. Appreciate it. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. We will now move on to reports from the City Council and start with Youth Council Liaison Bowden.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I'd like to offer my congratulations and thanks to the City Charter Review Committee, the Fire Medical Department, and Neighborhood Pride Program. I'm sure those sentiments will be echoed later on tonight, but I just think it's amazing the volume of people that are involved in making Peoria a destination for families and for youth and for continued growth. I'd like to report on our Youth Government Day that we held here on Thursday. By way of explanation, this is where students from local high schools in Peoria come and gather at City Hall, right here in the council chambers. And they learn more about their city's government and possible career paths in government, and it's also a way to market our Youth Advisory Board. And we were able to get some more applicants, which is always very exciting. We held a successful town hall where the youth discussed and presented their ideas about topics that we felt were relevant to Arizona and to Peoria especially. And then we split into groups and went on tours of the Peoria police and fire stations and the sports complex. It was very much a joint effort from city staff, the Youth Advisory Board, where the leaders of our board got a lot of experience in working with youth. We work with the school district and, of course, the students, which we saw were increasingly involved and very creative, especially in the town hall discussions. I'd like to offer my thanks on behalf of the board to city staff, the deputy city managers that spoke, and Councilmember Edwards, who also spoke at the event. We got very good feedback, and we're excited for next year's event as well. So thank you very much.
You know, it is really hard not to be just so proud of our youth in the city of Peoria. Is she incredible or what? She's a senior in high school. Thank you. Councilmember Patena.
Thank you, Mayor. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to attend a SALT conference, which stands for Seniors and Law Enforcement Together. It was held at Westbrook Village at the Vistas, and we live in a little bit of a unique area up there where we have Westbrook Village, we have Trilogy, Ventana Lakes, we're bordered by Sun City West, Sun City Grand, all age-restricted communities with people generally over their 60s. These people are really very vulnerable. The bad guys are looking to get us. They want to get your property and they want to get your money, and they'll do anything that they can. So the SALT conference was really very successful. I'd like to recognize Lisa Maddox from the Public Education Specialist, our Chief of Police, Roy Minter, who hosted that. The seminar on tools for the community was Lieutenant Anthony Wolf. Crime prevention, don't become a victim, Sergeant John Meck. We had Ishmael Navarez from the IRS Criminal Investigation, gave a very, very interesting report. Dispatch, Angie Reimer, and a Traffic Enforcement Sergeant Russ Scarborough. You know, this is really the essence of community policing. And the gentleman at my table leaned over and said to me that he was very impressed, Chief, by how many officers showed up and how much they participated, and that the city of Peoria was willing to bring their program to our community. So thank you for a very, very successful program. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Edwards.
Thank you, Mayor. I attended the Youth Government Day, and I want to thank you, Kendra, and Chris, who's not here tonight. You guys did a phenomenal job along with staff, basically hosting the 60 young students here at the campus, and it grows every year, so it's obviously important to the youth to know what's going on in their local government. So I just encourage all the youth that are out there to please get engaged with the city of Peoria, or wherever wherever your travels take you. It's so important to get involved at an early age and stay involved. Couple other things, just reminding people that our P83 concert series is coming up next Friday at the Peoria Sports Complex. It's free. We're going to have food trucks. You have to buy food from the food trucks, but the entertainment is all free. It's going to be inside the sports complex, and it's just going to be a great opportunity for you guys to come out and enjoy an afternoon and an evening. And then lastly, the whole evening, it seems to be about citizens of Peoria and staff of Peoria. And I can't tell you how exciting and how proud, as a council member and a resident of this city, the residents that come out to join committees and input on a daily basis. It seems like every single time we ask residents to come forward and help out, they step forward every single time. So I want to commend all of the residents, whether you're boards and commissions or subcommittees. I just want to thank you. And then staff. Without staff, I mean, you guys come out every single time, do presentations. Your budget is balanced. You make it so easy for us to come together and talk about a budget for the city of Peoria, and any questions that we have, you guys are right on top of them. So I want to thank you guys, Carl and your staff. This budget session, for me, even though it's not over and it has to be adopted, but for me, it was such an easy year because all of my questions were answered so thoughtfully and thoroughly. So I just want to thank staff. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Binsbacher?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm pretty sure that Peoria has the best council meetings anywhere. I want to say, too, all great comments. I concur completely. From the Charter Review Committee to Peoria Fire and Medical and your accreditation, neighborhood pride, and the work that you're doing, unbelievable, for 20 years. Thank you for serving our city, for serving our citizens, and for making us all so proud. It's good day in Peoria every day, so thank you. Also, I want to take a second to talk about Lake Pleasant. The mayor talks about Lake Pleasant every chance she gets, not just in Peoria, but outside of Peoria, and reminds folks that, Peoria has a lake. And we had a great day, the mayor and I, out at Lake Pleasant with city management and the county and Supervisor Hickman and some of the county management folks, parks, and Troon. And we toured the lake, as all of us have done many times, but what was so different about this day was that it was an opportunity for us to really begin to cultivate relationships and start to open the lines of communication so that we can work together. And we made it clear that Peoria is very interested in taking part in developing that lake and being part of the decision-making and the leadership to make that happen. It's a tremendous opportunity for Peoria because ultimately this will be a vacation destination for people from all over the country, all over the world. Who knows? It's going to be big, and we are going to be part of those discussions, and that was a very important day. Carl, thank you for that, and Julie, and it was a great opportunity for us to start those discussions. And Andy, too. I'm sorry. It was a great time. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Finn.
It's kind of hard to sit down here. You guys say everything that I want to say, and it gets to me, and it's like I'm just, ditto, 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 ditto. I do want to specifically ditto, though, the budget process. I do love budgets, and I do love numbers, and you guys do such an amazing job. Even the just out of left field questions that we seem to come up with, you guys have the answer for, and Chief runs from up top down, and it's amazing how well you guys know your numbers and answer every question. So I appreciate it very much. Thank you to the Charter Committee for all that you did, all of the boards and commissions again. We probably should double the volunteer salaries, Carl. Yeah, okay, all right. And then finally, one thing that I did wanted to make mention, an incident that happened in my district at 75th Avenue. You guys probably heard about it. I think it made national news with the home intrusion and everything that happened, and it was kind of a multi-faceted event there with MCSO and the city of Peoria. But what I wanted to mention, and I've said this before, the respect that I have for our public safety and what they do every single day, and I make mention, they're the ones that are running in while everybody else is running out, and that's exactly what they did on 75th Avenue. And they ran in with, I believe, hardly any type of protection just to try and pull somebody out, and 5 of them ended up going to the hospital. Thank goodness that they were very minor injuries, but it takes an unbelievable amount of courage to run into a burning building to try and save someone that you don't know this person at all. It's not like it's your kid or anybody else, but every single day they go out there and they're willing to do that. They did it on that day. Unfortunately, that person did not survive, but I just wanted to thank you, thank all of our public safety people out there that are saving lives every day and risking their lives, and we should be very thankful that we have them out there on the street. So thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Hunt.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be brief because I can just say ditto also. The one thing that I did this last 2 weeks that was really exciting was Karen and Chris and my assistant Terry and I went over late in the afternoon one day to a seminar at the Mesa Arts Center, and it was on art. It was called Art Space, and it focuses on the mixed use of artists living and working in the same space, and then perhaps on the bottom level of the building selling their wares. And it was just a really, it's not a new concept at all, but it's probably kind of new to our city. And so we went over, we had a great time. Chris was a good driver in rush hour traffic. But we learned so much to bring back, and not just for my downtown, but I think Art Space is probably something that we'll learn more and more as people. And I was interested even in the car report tonight, that they're interested in art in their space. And so I think as we focus more and more on that, the art space component will become even more important. So we had a good time, but mostly we really, really learned things to bring back. And Lisa, I know you've worked so hard on Planet Palooza, and I'm really looking forward to it. I did remind you that it was Shakespeare's birthday, and so I'm hoping that you have some kind of Shakespeare person there to zoom in. Okay, just wanted to make that note in case anybody...
I think you might have just volunteered to be the Shakespearean.
Yeah.
I'll be Anne Hathaway. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Leone.
Yes, thank you. I got just a couple of things here. On April 9th at Scotland Yard Park, we had an event there. And the event was just great. And there was over 300 people. We didn't have any more hot dogs left, have any more soda, or popcorn. And we also showed a movie, as we always do. But such a great event there that we asked the people, would they rather have a carnival or a movie? And I got the response back that they'd rather have a movie for the kids. But it was just a great event, and we'll be doing it next year again. Also on April the 16th, I had 2 home association meetings, one in the morning and one in the afternoon. And you know, these home association meetings is not just a home association meeting, but it's a block watch. And this block watch is really important because we have the police there, we have Lisa there who's in charge of it, and there are a lot of things that come up that people don't realize it. Now, a lot of these mobile home parks don't have block watch, and it's important when you hear somebody that's a gated community and they have kids breaking in and stealing TVs and getting them over the fence, that's some chore. So I think everybody that don't have a block watch, I think they should call the police department and find out how to go about it, because this is very, very important to the people, and they give you all the information, what to do, what to look for, especially keep your garage door closed. That's the main thing. Also, Saturday on April the 23rd, we have a shredder-thon. It's my 3rd one in my district, and they go over great. There's a lot of cars that come in, and you should see how much stuff they got. I think they save it up for 3 or 4 years. but it's going to be a country middle school, 111th Avenue in Butler. So if you have a lot of stuff to be shredded, come on down and we'll do it for you. Thank you, and God bless each and every one of you, and God bless America. And
Thank
I'm
you.
losing my voice again.
And I just want to take this opportunity to one more time thank our Citizens Charter Review Committee. Your city owes you a debt. We thank you for your service and for all of the time and effort and for making sure that what you did measured up to the standards that you hold as citizens of Peoria. You are amazing. We thank you from the bottom of our heart. And with that, we are adjourned.